Cleveland Browns just got embarrassed on national TV, and head coach Kevin Stefanski is facing a full-blown fan revolt. After benching Shedeur Sanders, the Browns were humiliated by the Lions, and now Cleveland wants answers for the biggest coaching mistake of the year.
In London, though, right? Here's another great question, folks. A lot of people want to know, when are we going to see Shedeur Sanders start for the Cleveland Browns? He has been inactive every week for the Browns so far, dressing as the emergency third quarterback, meaning he would only play if injuries happened to Flacco and Gabriel that ruled them out. Now, if Dylan Gabriel were to be named the starting quarterback, naturally, the depth chart shifts a little bit, and I think Sanders is the backup. Then he would start dressing. Then he would be available, and he'd be one step closer to starting as an NFL quarterback in regular season action, folks. So, get Gabriel in there sooner. If you're a Sanders fan, you want it to. But also, just because of how bad Flacco's been, how bad the offense has looked, there needs to be a change. Let's start Dylan Gabriel, see what he can do. I give him like 4 games, 5 games. If Gabriel's just as bad, you go to your next guy, which is Shedeur Sanders on the depth chart.
Kevin Stefanski might have just made the biggest mistake of his coaching career. While Joe Flacco's out here throwing 6 interceptions in 4 games, an NFL high. By the way, Shedeur Sanders is sitting on the sidelines dressed as an emergency third-string quarterback, watching this train wreck unfold. And after that brutal loss to Detroit, where Flacco added 2 more picks to his collection, the whispers are getting louder. Browns fans are demanding change. The locker room's starting to crack. And Stefanski? He's still riding with a 40-year-old who's doing absolutely nothing for this team's future. But here's where it gets really interesting. Sanders himself just went on record saying he believes he could play better than some starting NFL quarterbacks right now. And honestly, after watching Flacco against the Lions, he might not be wrong.
Seems like it's time, right? Joe Flacco has an NFL high 6 interceptions. He has 8 turnovers in 4 weeks. It's disgusting. I'm over it. Bench him. Gabriel, though, I don't think the Browns are going to start in London. There's a chance. I think we should mirror the Giants, though. They have Russell Wilson. He was playing bad. They benched him for rookie Jackson Dart. The Giants won the football game today against the Chargers. We have Joe Flacco. He's old. He's playing bad. We have 2 rookies. It's kind of simple math at some point. But the Browns always do what you don't want them to do. I bet Stefanski sticks with Flacco in London. But after that, there's no excuse at all. Week 6, 7, it's Dylan Gabriel time. Ben Bandahan, $2. Thank you so much, man. Says, so we dress Sanders in London, though, right? Here's another great question, folks.
Let's talk about what actually went down in Detroit, because this wasn't just a bad game. This was a complete disaster that should have every Browns fan questioning what the hell is going on in that building. Joe Flacco, the guy who was supposed to bring veteran leadership and stability to this offense, has now thrown an NFL-high 6 interceptions.
He's regretting it. Folks, Shedeur, if you don't know, recently said that he believes he could play better than most starting quarterbacks in the NFL, or some starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. If you look at New Orleans' situation, Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck, yeah, I think he'd be better than some. Cam Ward is playing awful right now. I think Shedeur has a case where he actually would be better than some starting NFL quarterbacks right now. Joe Flacco, too. I'm not going to lie. I think 12 would be better than Flacco right now. I don't know. Offensive line's a big part of it, though, for him. We do need to protect him if we're going to put in 12. So I understand that point of view. Kofi, hold on, man. He'll start in the NFL eventually. He'll get his chance. He'll get his shot. Folks, thank you so much for bearing with me here watching Cleveland Browns football. If you're new, subscribe, join the party. We do it every day, every week. Happy to be here, hanging out with you guys, no matter what. So join the party.
Not just 6 picks, but 8 total turnovers in 4 weeks. 8. That's 2 turnovers per game on average. You can't win football games like that. You can't even compete like that. And look, I get it. Flacco came in as a savior last season when he helped this team make a playoff push. Everyone remembers the magic. But that was then, and this is now. The man is 40 years old, and Father Time is undefeated. What we're watching right now isn't the Joe Flacco of old. It's a quarterback who's lost a step, who's making terrible decisions under pressure, and who frankly looks like he doesn't have it anymore. The Detroit game was the breaking point. 2 more interceptions. The offense looked lifeless. And while Jerry Jeudy did have some drops early in the season that didn't help Flacco's case, we can't keep making excuses. At some point, you have to look at the guy under center and admit that he's the problem. The offensive line, yeah, they've been up and down, but they weren't even that bad against Detroit. Sure, Cornelius Lucas got demolished one-on-one by Aiden Hutchinson. That was a mismatch from hell. But overall, the protection was there. Flacco just couldn't deliver. Now here's where this story gets spicy. While all this is happening, Shedeur Sanders is sitting on the bench, inactive every single week, watching this circus from the sidelines. And I know what you're thinking. Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he at least dressed as the backup? Well, according to the depth chart, Sanders is the emergency third quarterback. That means he only plays if both Flacco and Dillon Gabriel go down with injuries that rule them out completely. He's basically invisible right now, but fans are starting to connect the dots. If Dillon Gabriel gets named the starter, which, let's be honest, should have happened already, then naturally Sanders would move up to the backup role. He'd start dressing. He'd be active on game days. He'd be one step closer to actually playing in an NFL game. And for Shedeur fans who followed him from Colorado to Cleveland, that's what they've been waiting for. Here's the thing that drives me crazy about this whole situation. Stefanski is sitting there watching Flacco throw pick after pick, watching the offense sputter and stall, and he's still not ready to make a change. Insiders are saying that Stefanski is probably going to stick with Flacco for the London game against the Vikings. Can you believe that? After 8 turnovers in 4 weeks, after an NFL-high 6 interceptions, after that embarrassing performance in Detroit, Stefanski is still going to roll with Joe Flacco. That it's mind-blowing. And you know what the worst part is? This does nothing for the team's future. Flacco is here on a 1-year deal. He's 40 years old. Even if he magically turns it around, which, let's be real, isn't happening, what's the end game? He retires after this season, and then what? You're back to square one at quarterback. Meanwhile, you've got 2 rookies on the roster who could actually be the future of this franchise. Dillon Gabriel, the Oklahoma product, and Shedeur Sanders, the Colorado kid with all the hype. One of those guys could be your franchise quarterback. One of them could be the answer you've been searching for. But you won't know unless you actually play them. And that's what makes this so frustrating. Every week that goes by without playing the rookies is a wasted opportunity. You need to figure out what you have in these guys before next year's NFL draft. If you don't play Shedeur this season, what's your plan for next year? Do you draft another quarterback? Then you'd have 3 rookies in the quarterback room, plus Deshaun Watson. That's a mess. That's organizational chaos. The smart move, the obvious move, is to start Dillon Gabriel and see what he can do. Give him 4, maybe 5 games. If he struggles, if he looks as bad as Flacco, then you move to the next guy on the depth chart, which is Shedeur Sanders. At least then you're evaluating your future. At least then you're building towards something. Now let's talk about what Shedeur Sanders said, because this is where things get really interesting. Sanders recently made a statement that turned heads across the league. He said he believes he could play better than some starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Not all of them. He wasn't that arrogant, but some of them. And you know what? He might have a point. Look at what's happening around the league. New Orleans has Spencer Rattler and Taysom Hill trying to figure things out, and neither one looks like the answer. Miami's got Tyler Huntley struggling. Cam Ward was getting hyped as a future first-rounder, but he's been awful this season. And then there's Joe Flacco in Cleveland, leading the league in interceptions. When you look at it objectively, Shedeur's claim doesn't sound crazy at all. In fact, it sounds pretty reasonable. This is a kid who just came from Colorado where he was throwing dimes, leading comebacks, and showing poise under pressure. He's got the arm talent. He's got the football IQ. His dad made sure of that. And he's got the confidence. Maybe that confidence rubs some people the wrong way, but in the NFL, you need that swagger. You need to believe you belong, even when the world is telling you to wait your turn. And here's the kicker. Sanders might actually be better than Flacco right now. I'm not even joking. We're watching a 40-year-old quarterback who's clearly past his prime, making the same mistakes week after week. Meanwhile, we've got a 22-year-old with fresh legs, a live arm, and something to prove. The only real concern is the offensive line, and that's a legitimate worry. You don't want to throw a rookie quarterback behind a struggling O-line and watch him get destroyed. That's how you ruin careers. But here's the counter-argument. The offensive line situation isn't getting better anytime soon. Joel Bitonio might retire. Wyatt Teller is a free agent in 2026. Jack Conklin is always injured and also a free agent. Jedrick Wills just had his third consecutive knee surgery, and he's out for the year. Ethan Posick is a free agent too. That's literally the entire starting offensive line, either gone or uncertain after this season. So if you're worried about protecting Shedeur behind a bad O-line, guess what? That problem isn't going away. You might as well find out now if he can handle it. You might as well see if he's got the grit and toughness to survive in this league. Because if he can't, then you know you need to draft someone else. But if he can, if he shows flashes, if he proves he's got what it takes, then suddenly you've got a foundation to build on. The Browns are in a weird spot right now. Their defense is actually good. Myles Garrett is still a beast. The secondary is solid. The run defense is holding up. But none of that matters if your offense can't score points. And right now, the offense is broken. Flacco's turnover-prone play is killing drives. The receivers are dropping passes. The offensive line is patchwork at best. Something has to change, and that change should start at quarterback. It has to, because what we're watching right now isn't sustainable. You can't keep trotting out a 40-year-old quarterback who's leading the league in interceptions and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity. Now, let's talk about the locker room, because this is where things could really go sideways for Stefanski. At some point, the players are going to speak up. At some point, they're going to question why they're sticking with a guy who keeps putting the ball in the other team's hands. Sure, Judy had some drops early in the season, and that didn't help. But the drops have cleaned up, and Flacco is still throwing picks. The O-line had a decent game against Detroit, and Flacco still couldn't get it done. When players start seeing that the problem isn't them, that the problem is the guy under center, that's when the locker room can fracture. That's when you get guys questioning the coaching staff's decisions. That's when veteran leaders start having closed-door meetings and demanding change. And if the coaches don't listen, that's when you lose the locker room completely. The thing is, a quarterback change almost always provides a spark, at least in the first week. There's something about a fresh face, a new energy, that gets the whole offense going. Even if the new guy isn't better long-term, that initial jolt can wake up a stagnant offense. It gives receivers something to rally around. It gives the offensive line a reason to protect harder. It changes the entire dynamic. So why isn't Stefanski pulling the trigger? Why is he so stubborn about sticking with Flacco? Maybe it's loyalty. Maybe it's fear of making the wrong decision. Maybe he genuinely believes Flacco gives them the best chance to win. But whatever the reason, it's starting to look like a massive miscalculation. And here's the brutal truth. If Stefanski waits too long, if he lets this season slip away because he refused to make a change, that's on him. The fans will remember. The front office will remember. And when the Browns miss the playoffs again, when they're sitting at home in January watching other teams compete, Stefanski's going to have to answer for why he didn't give the rookies a shot. Let's also talk about the special teams disaster against Detroit. Because it wasn't just Flacco who had a rough day. Corey Bojorquez, one of the most reliable punters in the league, had an uncharacteristically bad game. He shanked a couple punts, and one of them got returned 60 yards for a touchdown by Khalif Raymond. That was the backbreaker. That was the moment where you could feel the game slipping away. Special teams mistakes like that are killers. They flip momentum. They give the other team free points. And when you combine that with Flacco's turnovers, you're basically handing the game to your opponent on a silver platter. The Browns can't afford these kinds of mistakes, especially not when their offense is already struggling to score. But even with the special teams blunder, the game was still winnable if Flacco had just taken care of the ball. That's what makes this so frustrating. The defense played well enough to win. Quinton Judkins ran hard behind a struggling offensive line. Credit to him for grinding out yards. The pieces are there. The talent is there. But the quarterback play is sinking the ship. Now, let's circle back to Shedeur Sanders and why Browns fans should actually be excited about his potential. This isn't just some random rookie who got drafted late. This is a kid who grew up around football royalty. His dad is Deion Sanders, one of the greatest to ever play the game. Shedeur has been coached by primetime his entire life. He's seen what it takes to succeed at the highest level. He's got the pedigree, but more than that, he's got the film. At Colorado, Sanders showed he could handle pressure. He took hit after hit behind a terrible offensive line and kept getting back up. He made tight window throws. He showed touch on deep balls. He demonstrated pocket awareness and the ability to go through progressions. Yeah, he played in college, but the traits are there. The foundation is there. And here's the thing that people forget. Every great NFL quarterback was a rookie once. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year and then exploded onto the scene. Joe Burrow started immediately and led the Bengals to a Super Bowl. C.J. Stroud just won Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's no one right way to develop a quarterback. But what we do know is that you can't develop a guy if he never plays. So when Browns fans are calling for Shedeur to get a shot, they're not being unreasonable. They're not being impatient. They're looking at an 0-4 start, an offense that can't score, and a quarterback who's throwing picks like he's trying to set a record. They're saying, what do we have to lose? And honestly, they've got a point. What is the downside of playing Shedeur at this point in the season? If he's bad, okay, you know you need to draft a quarterback next year. But at least you tried. At least you gave the kid a chance. And if he's good, if he shows flashes, if he proves he can compete, then suddenly you've got your franchise quarterback. You've got a guy you can build around. You've got hope. Hope is a powerful thing in the NFL. It's what keeps fans coming back week after week, even when their team is struggling. And right now, Browns fans don't have much hope. They're watching the same old story play out. Bad quarterback play, offensive struggles, another wasted season. But if Stefanski would just make the change, if he'd just give the rookies a shot, that hope could return. The London game against the Vikings is next week. And all signs point to Stefanski sticking with Flacco one more time. But after that, after they likely lose to Minnesota and fall to 0-5, there's no excuse. Week 6, Week 7, that's when we should see Dillon Gabriel. And if Gabriel struggles, that's when we should see Shedeur Sanders. Because here's the bottom line. The Browns have a championship-caliber defense. They've got talent at the skill positions. They've got a solid running back in Judkins who's showing toughness and heart. The pieces are there. But none of it matters if you don't have a quarterback. And right now, Joe Flacco is not that guy. Shedeur Sanders might not be the guy either. But at least with him, there's potential. There's upside. There's a future to build toward. With Flacco, you're just running out the clock on a lost season. So to all the Browns fans out there who are frustrated, who are tired of watching the same mistakes week after week, who are demanding change, you're right. You deserve better. This team deserves better. And Shedeur Sanders deserves a chance to prove he belongs. Kevin Stefanski's decision to keep Shedeur on the bench might go down as one of the biggest regrets of his coaching career. Because if this season falls apart, and it's already heading that direction, fans are going to look back and wonder what could have been. They're going to wonder if Sanders could have saved the season. They're going to wonder if Stefanski's stubbornness cost them a playoff spot. And the worst part? We might never know. We might never get to see what Shedeur can do until it's too late. Until the season is over and we're all sitting here talking about what could have been. But there's still time. There's still a chance for Stefanski to make the right call. To admit that Flacco isn't working. To give the rookies their shot. To give Browns fans something to believe in. The question is, will he do it? Or will he wait until it's too late? So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Shedeur Sanders should be starting for the Browns right now? Should Stefanski have made the switch already? Or does Flacco deserve more time? And be honest, if you're a Browns fan, how much longer can you watch this offense struggle before you completely lose hope? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a real conversation about this because Browns fans deserve to be heard. And if you believe in Shedeur like I do, let me know. Tell me why you think he's the answer, or tell me why you think the Browns should stick with what they've got. And look, if you made it this far, you're clearly invested in this team and this story. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're bringing you Browns content every single day, win or lose. We're covering every angle, every controversy, every decision that Kevin Stefanski makes or doesn't make. We're in the trenches with you. And we're not going anywhere. So subscribe, drop a like, and let's keep this conversation going. Because something's got to give in Cleveland, and we're going to be here to cover it when it does.